Hi, everybody, and welcome to Alex Erm's Clips. Have you ever wondered how a husband feels when his actress wife stars in a movie with another man, especially when the film has scenes he'd rather not even imagine? The story I'm about to share with you is just like that. And let me tell you, it doesn't have a particularly happy ending. My wife agreed to do an intimate photo shoot with a male model while I was away. The behind-the-scenes photos revealed more than she admitted. This is a complicated issue, but I'll try to make it brief and comprehensive. My wife is close friends with Gina, a highly talented and kind wedding photographer in our city. Thanks to this friendship, we've enjoyed significant discounts on everything from our wedding photos to family portraits. Recently, my wife lost all her baby weight and got incredibly fit through a low-carb diet and natural movement workouts. Gina asked her to participate in a boudoir shoot to showcase her as a fit mom on Gina's website. After many discussions, I supported the idea because I thought it was attractive. My wife was initially worried about her employers, friends, and family seeing the photos, but eventually she decided to go ahead with it. The photos turned out stunning. Gina hired a fantastic makeup artist, and my wife looked like a supermodel with minimal Photoshop. When the pictures went up on Gina's website, she sent me a classy, hard-bound book of the photos with a note thanking me for being supportive. The timeline is important here. The photos were taken in May, went on the website in late June, and I received the book this week. My wife was out of town with our baby visiting her parents. Late Wednesday, I received an email from Gina wishing me a happy 4th of July and inviting me to view some digital proofs to see if there were any other photos I liked. The email contained a link to a secure site with a username and password. Initially, the photos were variations of the ones I had seen: lingerie, implied nudity, gym wear, and the like. Then, I stumbled upon a series of full nude photos. I wondered why these weren't included in the book. As I clicked through, I noticed thumbnails with two people. I opened one and saw my wife in an embrace that looked like the cover of a romance novel. The man, also a model, was extremely ripped. I was shocked that my wife hadn't mentioned a male model. The series consisted of about 50 photos, becoming increasingly risque. My wife transitioned from a business suit to just her underwear, while the man remained in his underwear. In some photos, he appeared to be kissing her neck. His hands were on her breasts, and in one particularly unsettling photo, his face was close to her thong, pulling it away with his teeth. I was stunned for 30 minutes. I emailed Gina, asking what this was about, as it was far beyond what I had expected. She hasn't replied, and my password for the site was changed. Gina wouldn't provide a new one. I tried calling my wife, but she was too busy to talk and initially replied that she thought I liked the sexy photos. Now, she's not responding at all, likely because Gina informed her of the slip-up. I'm lost. My wife had plenty of chances to tell me about this. If this was the plan all along, I might not have outright objected, but would have set boundaries like no kissing or touching. If Gina surprised her with the male model, why didn't she refuse or enforce her own limits? She seemed to be enjoying herself in the photos. If these are the ones Gina accidentally sent me, are there more, and do they get more explicit? My wife is probably panicking as well. She returns home Sunday morning. How do I even begin this conversation with her? Update. My wife came home a day early. We've been talking for the last 2 hours and are taking a break now. I've received a lot of advice, and I know this post will likely get a range of reactions. I've been agonizing over this since seeing the photos. There was almost no contact with my wife, partly because she was busy at a lake and avoiding the conversation. She decided to come home early and called to say she was on her way and asked me to get us Jimmy John's because she was starving. I resisted the urge to confront her over the phone and got her a sandwich. After putting our son to bed, we had a serious discussion. According to her, Gina had mentioned shooting with a male model if she was interested. My wife, Nikki, initially declined because she was already nervous about the boudoir/fitness shoot. However, after a glass of wine, she relaxed and enjoyed the solo shoot. Nikki suggested doing full nude photos, which went well, and then the conversation shifted to trying it with a male model. Nikki swears the model wasn't there initially, but Gina called him, and he arrived within an hour. Nikki admits it was a mistake not to call me, but said she was caught up in the moment. The male model, a 22-year-old with an amazing build, was very professional, making the shoot feel mechanical and businesslike. This contrasted with the solo shoot, which was fun and relaxed. I told her the photos didn't look like that. She claimed there were many photos where she looked terrified and ashamed, which weren't included in the proofs. I demanded to see all the pictures, and Nikki logged into the secure site, revealing 10 more photos. They depicted a sequence from the model pulling her underwear off with his teeth, to her spreading her legs and ending with a shot of them in a suggestive position. She promised there weren't more photos and that nothing further happened. She assured me the model never removed his underwear. I asked if it turned her on, and she admitted the physical sensation did, but emotionally, she was terrified of my reaction. She said the experience was so clinical that nothing organic happened. I found it suspicious that she didn't tell me about this for almost 6 weeks. She claimed she struggled to find the words. Our sex life has been incredible since the shoot, and I initially attributed it to our son sleeping better, but now I'm uncertain. Part of me thinks she was turned on by the shoot and took it out on me. I asked her to swear she didn't know the model beforehand, hadn't kept in touch, and had no future plans with him. She said the model brought his girlfriend, a gorgeous volleyball player from a local university, to the shoot, and she's sure he's not interested in a 30-year-old mother. Nikki said the girlfriend was in the room, but was bored and scrolling through her phone. Gina and her assistant were also present. After some searching on Gina's website, we found the model's name and Facebook page. He's a college student and appears to be dating the volleyball player. I asked Gina what she intended to do with the photos because it was crazy to me that Nikki went from hesitating to take boudoir shots to essentially doing softcore photos in less than a week. Nikki assured me that Gina had no plans to use the photos. They were just test shots. Gina is getting back into boudoir and couples photo shoots, and the male model owed her a favor, making it a perfect time to practice. I asked Nikki why I wasn't asked to participate. She didn't have a good answer. Obviously, Gina had already made a huge mistake by sending them to me or uploading them to my private proof page. How could we trust she wouldn't make another mistake, like sending them to the wrong person or forgetting they were just practice and selling them? Nikki said we would have to trust Gina. I told her I was struggling to trust anyone at the moment and needed more assurance. Nikki suggested we could talk to Gina at the first opportunity on Monday. I asked if she would be willing to have a lawyer draw up a contract to keep Gina to her word, and she agreed. We then delved into why Nikki kept this a secret. She felt so guilty afterward that she had no idea how to tell me and knew she would be seeing her family this week, so she hoped to delay the conversation. I asked how she found out I knew. She said Gina called her late Wednesday, confessing she had really screwed up. Nikki went into the panic mode, either crying or clamming up around everyone because she felt so ashamed. I told her how much the silence almost destroyed me. She started crying, apologized for the whole thing, and begged me not to leave her, insisting she loved me more than anyone. I told her I believed she loved me and acknowledged her mistake, but felt deeply disrespected and emasculated. She said she understood and would do whatever she could to make it up to me. I told her I wasn't sure what that meant yet. She started crying again and begged me not to make any rash decisions about leaving her. I said if she promised she was telling the truth, and it seemed she was, then I wouldn't leave her. But I was unsure what normal would look like for us now. She promised to wait as long as it took for me to figure it out. Our son woke up, his sleep schedule disrupted from the drive, so she tended to him while I wrote this. Aside from this lie of omission, she's never been dishonest with me before, so I believe her about the details. They seem too crazy not to be true, but I still feel gross about the whole thing. Another guy has touched my wife's breasts, breathed on her neck, and laid on top of her in several positions. We can never be a couple who can say we haven't been intimate with other people. I understand the professionalism of it all, but it still happened, and I have to live with that. That's the update. I don't know if there's more to say or not. Maybe there will be more later. I'm trying to sort through my feelings and not having much luck. Edit. It's about 6 a.m., and I had a sleepless night. Based on comments, as soon as my wife is up, I plan to ask to see her phone. Tell her I'm contacting the model's girlfriend as she seems the most neutral party who can verify some details. Independently contact Gina and ask to see every single photo taken that day. I'll update after these are done. Edit 2. I heard my wife crying on the phone in the next room and eavesdropped. She was talking to Gina, telling her she needed to come over or send all the pictures from the shoot because divorce was on the line. Gina, heading out of town for a wedding shoot, is rushing over to open the studio so we can go through all the pictures. I told my wife I wanted to see her phone on the way over, and she agreed. She's packing up our son. We're taking our 1-year-old to the studio where my wife was felt up to prove she didn't cheat on me. This has been the most exhausting week of my life. I'll update later, but I'm worried this is as exhausting to everyone else as it is to me. Edit 3. Here's where we are now. I checked my wife's phone on the way to Gina's studio. On Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., there were 7 missed calls from Gina. She had also started a text conversation around that time saying, "Please call me, we really need to talk." I matched it with my email to Gina sent at 6:15 p.m. saying, "This is way more than I thought it was going to be." If you remember, in those 15 minutes, I had tried calling my wife, who told me she was too busy to talk. I texted her wanting to know what happened at the shoot. Apparently, Nikki still thought I didn't know as she texted back, "Sexiness you like?" When Gina's texts started rolling in, she knew that I knew. Their text conversation went like this. "Gina, I really screwed up, not you. This is serious. Please call." Nikki, "Can't now. What's wrong?" Gina, "I accidentally put those pics with Craig on Thomas's preview site." Nikki, "What? Please listen. I need to know what you want me to do." Gina, "I don't understand. Tommy just emailed me about the shoot not being what he thought it was. How would he know? You haven't told him yet?" Nikki, "No, not planning on it for a while." Gina, "Crap, that's what I thought. He's seen the pics of you and Craig. Please follow me." Nikki, "What? How?" Gina, "I'm so sorry. I was rushing to get proofs out and accidentally uploaded most of them to his preview site." Nikki, "What's most?" Gina, "I mean almost all." Nikki, "Oh my God, Gina, oh my God." Gina, "What do you want me to do? I'm out of town. I can't leave until Saturday. What do I do?" Nikki, "I don't know. He's going to flip out." Gina, "I can change his password so he can't get back in." Nikki, "What if he copies them?" Gina, "Can't copy protect. Please do that while I think. I'm so sorry, Nicole. This was a huge accident. Do you want me to talk to him?" Nikki, "No, this better come from me, but I'm going to throw up. I don't know what to do." That was pretty much their only communication. Gina texted her daily, asking if she was okay, but Nikki never responded. Nikki texted her that she was leaving Saturday morning, but nothing else. At the studio, Gina was rushing around because she had a wedding to shoot 2 hours away. I asked her to talk to me about what she was thinking. She took 5 minutes to say she was so sorry, that things got away from her, and Nikki was doing an amazing job. It seemed like a great idea at the time. I was at a loss for words, so I didn't ask more questions. Gina set us up on her main computer and opened the file folder containing every single one of Nikki's pictures from that day, including the ones not in the proofs. ### 1,000 pictures and 1,000 questions. I think it was exactly 1,213 pictures in total. I scrolled through every image and reached the couple shots. It was obvious that the mood shifted drastically from the solo shots to the couple ones. In the solo shots, Nikki was smiling, laughing, and having a good time, even if the picture didn't turn out well. But in the couple shots, she looked nervous and uncomfortable, almost annoyed. I've seen that expression on her countless times. It seemed to take about 10 tries to get one decent shot where she didn't look like she was being interrogated. The more undressed she became, the worse it got. You could clearly see her look of genuine disgust when the guy touched her breasts, and it took a long time for her to make those shots work. There was a short break where Nikki went into the dressing room to compose herself. During that time, Gina took similar shots with the guy and his girlfriend, who was also in the studio. It was obvious that both of them had experience doing this sort of thing. When Nikki came out of the dressing room, Gina tried to recapture the spark from the solo shots. You could see the girlfriend in the background, looking bored on her phone. After the break, Nikki seemed a bit more relaxed, and that's when they did the poses with the guy lying on her back, which led to some very suggestive shots where it appeared he was initiating sex. The shoot ended abruptly, followed by a dozen shots of everyone goofing off, flipping the camera off, and sticking their tongues out. The strangest one was of Nikki in a bathrobe, hugging the model alongside his girlfriend, both smiling. Nikki said she asked for that one because it seemed like a group shot showing everyone was cool with each other. I carefully checked the sequencing of the photos. Gina had them all numerically titled with the date, a code for the customer and location, and a series number. There wasn't a single picture missing. Renaming 1,000 pictures to eliminate the ones worse than what I already saw would have been an epic task, so I'm 99% convinced I saw everything. I'm more convinced than ever that my wife is telling me the truth about what happened. I don't think there was cheating or sex. Many people would consider what happened cheating, but I believe it was professional. It seemed spur of the moment when Nikki suggested trying the couple stuff. The girlfriend was definitely there, so I see no reason to drag her into this. I still have some uncomfortable questions. First, would Nikki have ever told me if Gina hadn't accidentally shown me those pictures? Second, why did it take 6 freaking weeks? Third, I think Nikki was uncomfortable in the moment, but upon reflection, she realized she actually enjoyed the experience. I'm more convinced of this with that shot of her smiling with the girlfriend, almost as if they were members of a burgeoning harem dedicated to hot abs. Despite this, I believe she was embarrassed by initiating the shoot and was very scared of my reaction. It says a lot that she didn't trust me enough to tell me, so that's where we are now. I'm glad I saw the pictures, but I don't know if it really cleared anything up. I think she's telling me a version of the truth that's mostly factual, but how can I ever be sure? I'm not leaving her or divorcing her based on what I know now. Part of me is happy for her that she had a good time. I'm not the fun police, but I still feel terrible about the whole thing. Update. First of all, I really appreciate everyone helping me out. I honestly don't know what I would have done without a place to vent, argue the facts, and bounce things off of. When the other sub removed my post and banned me for just asking why, I thought I was going to lose my mind. A very sincere thank you. If you recall from one of my updates, Nikki agreed that we would sit down with Gina today and get her full side of the story. I spoke with Gina yesterday, but it was only long enough for her to open the building, boot up her computer, and then leave for her shoot. I told my wife I wanted to talk to Gina alone first, and she had no problem with that. Gina was very friendly when we sat down at her desk. I asked if she understood why I was having such a hard time with this. Gina said she did and was very sorry for how things turned out. Her version of events more or less matched Nikki's. She mentioned that Nikki shooting with the guy was brought up about a week before the boudoir shoot. Nikki had initially said no, but on the shoot day they had a great time, and Nikki suggested they do a full nude shoot as a Christmas present for me. Gina said Nikki was even more relaxed nude, so she reintroduced the idea of shooting with her friend Craig, who has great abs. Nikki said, "What the hell, let's do it." Craig, who was in class at the time, showed up with his girlfriend. They drank wine while waiting for him, and everyone was good and buzzed by the time he arrived. Gina had the idea of making it like a visual romance novel, where the hot businesswoman succumbs to the hot guy's advances. Mission accomplished. Gina said Nikki went from having a great time to being super nervous. Gina had to press her to open up. Pun intended, probably not, but I noticed the phrasing. Nikki did very well, according to Gina. I asked Gina to promise me there were no other pictures. She said absolutely not, and that I could even check the metadata to see that everything was in a complete sequence. That took about an hour. I asked Gina why Nikki. If this guy's girlfriend already knew how to do this, why not just use her? Remember, the girlfriend did the same poses as Nikki while Nikki was taking a break. Gina said she loved shooting with Nikki, and that, as a photographer, a series of sexy shots where the couple is mismatched is much more interesting than just 2 good-looking college kids. That all seemed on the up and up. Gina promised she wasn't going to do anything with the pictures, and that it was just a fun session with friends. I don't know what I was thinking, but I asked if I could have a hard drive of all the pictures. Gina said usually she wouldn't do that, but because we had been friends for so long and the situation was unique, she would make an exception. I have no idea why I asked for them. Maybe I can embarrass Nikki with them someday as a prank, like, "Hey, remember that time you almost slept with that college kid? Here's a picture." Just kidding, I guess. Nikki came into the office crying, apologizing to both of us, saying it was her fault, and she felt terrible. Gina was contrite as well, saying she probably used her friendship with Nikki to push the moment way more than was professionally acceptable. I was able to half-heartedly accept Gina's apology, but I'm still not sure I fully understand it yet. We left, and Nikki again begged me not to make any rash decisions about our future. I told her I'd already said that if everything up to this point was the truth, I'm not leaving, but I can't make any promises about what normal will be for us now. She said that was okay and recommended we seek a marriage counselor. I told her that would be great, and I'd attend every session. She has been an emotional wreck since she got home on Saturday and hasn't slept. Neither have I. She's been trying very hard to be physical with me, holding my hand, hugging me, sitting next to me on the couch. I've been trying to reciprocate, but finding it very hard. I know she's hurting, and I should be the one to comfort her, and I'm doing the best I can. Here's the thing, which a lot of you may disagree with, and that's fine. If I'm going to stay in this marriage, I need to be all in. I'm not going to be her warden. I'm not going to ask her to prove where she is or who she's with, and I'm not going to look through her phone again. I felt gross doing it yesterday, even though it was helpful, and I couldn't bring myself to do it again. I feel that if we're married, then we're married. This isn't something to be brought up in an argument or used as an excuse for me to creep on Instagram models. If I'm staying 100%. I can't say with certainty that I can always stick to this, because Nikki can be a nag from hell, and the temptation to pull up a photo and say, "Why didn't I remember to get gas? Remember that time Hot Ab's mole's 9 inches were only separated from your parts by fabric?" Might be too much to resist. Yeah, I still have a bit of spite in me, but jokes aside, she's been through a lot, and as the mother of my adorable kid, she deserves love and compassion, even if much of this is her own making. So, tonight, I'm going to see a movie without her. I'll be mad, call her all sorts of names in my head, scream, punch my steering wheel, throw rocks into the river, have some scotch, maybe even get into like a bar fight. But tomorrow, I'll get up and be the husband I was before she left last Sunday. I'm also going to hit Facebook, find a lawyer, and delete a joke someone made that really made me laugh. Seriously though, Nikki messed up. This whole episode has shown me that I've become a squishy 50-year-old, even though I'm only 30. A big reason Nikki and Gina didn't even think to ask me to participate in that shoot is that I don't even resemble a guy who could be with my wife anymore. She's very attractive, and while I've got a decent base to work with, I'm not what I used to be. She looks better than she did in our wedding pictures Gina took. I look far worse. If I'm going to be in this marriage 100%, I need to be 100% myself, or the person I was when I was a practicing purple belt in BJJ or a walk-on to my college baseball team. The hardest part, but probably the most productive, has been looking myself in the mirror and admitting that while my wife did a softcore shoot and still loves me, I've let myself go so badly that she didn't even think to include me. So I've already signed back up for BJJ tomorrow, and I'm going to talk to my professor about being an instructor again. I'll join Nikki in her paleo diet and maybe even her funky movement class. Hopefully, I can use this episode to become a better person. Thank you so much for sticking with me, and a serious thank you again. At 1 in the morning, this has been such a crazy experience, and I've seen the absolute best and worst of Reddit. But I've also seen some truly helpful people who genuinely care about a stranger and his wife, whether they agreed with my course of action or not. PMs and comments are still rolling in, and I'll keep responding if people are interested in my nonsense. Just to put this to rest from the PMs, I'm not sharing the pics, and I'm not linking Gina's page. You'll have to take my word for it that Nikki is as cute as I say. If you had to play that old game of what celebrity do you resemble? Nikki has black hair and striking blue eyes, is fit now, and not super curvy, but balanced, if that makes sense. For those who keep asking, that's the best I'm going to do. And yes, I'm bragging that my wife is quite hot. I look like smashed crap served on a cracker. My self-esteem is at an all-time low. I'm hungover like crazy. Uber's taking forever, and I have to get my car and still get to work, and I'm at least 2 hours late now. I'm going to close the door to my office and sleep this off. Have a good one, everyone. Update 3. There are 2 reasons I'm not going to insist my wife never be friends with Gina again. I think that if I say something like, "Cut Gina out of your life," it allows my wife to say, "Okay, I'll do it." But then she gets to place all the blame on someone who is no longer her friend. In essence, giving her the chance to say, "Remember when that former friend made me do all those terrible things?" She's gone now, and I'm all good. Not sure if that makes sense or not. Secondly, demanding who she be friends with puts me back in that position of being her warden or jailer. If she's organically not friends anymore, no issues, but I've never been one to tell her who her friends are, and if I start now, then I'm truly acting like a victim. People are making a huge issue of my comments on my looks. I just want to clear that I'm not blaming her decision on my chubby crap face. She was doing the initial boudoir stuff for me after all, but I am saying that when it came time for manskin and underwear to join the party, neither one of them thought, who's the guy to make these look hot? My husband. If that makes sense. When I met Nikki, I was a college baseball player. I was in shape, I ran marathons for fun, and I instructed jujitsu in what little spare time I had. At times, I had a cool hipster beard, long hair I could put in a ponytail, and cool, ironic nerd glasses. I used to be a handsome guy, but I love fast food and soda, and 8 years later, I'm not the guy who gets invited to strip down to my underwear for pictures. For myself and Nikki, I need to change that. The one thing that people just aren't hearing me on is that Nikki is probably the least deceptive person I've ever met, present circumstances included. She's just not like that at all. She comes from a very sheltered background and has almost no street smarts or hustle in her. I love that about her because her naivety can be really cute sometimes. She follows the rules, stops for yellow lights, and returns her library books on time. I mean, she's as vanilla as a person can be. Nikki was so nervous just trying to get the prank going that she was shaking like a leaf. Her voice was cracking, and I could instantly tell she was up to something. She has zero game. I mean, zero. I think she was able to get away with not telling me for 6 weeks because in her head, she wasn't being dishonest because I never asked, did you have a photo shoot with a dude? But I'm sure it still ate at her, and she says it did. Knowing her for 10 years, I'm surprised she didn't give herself an ulcer. I know people don't believe me on this, and that's cool, but I've known her long enough to know what is and isn't plausible in this whole situation. Update 4. My wife and I basically decided to work things out, and here's the update. So, out of the blue, I logged into this account because I needed a throwaway, and even though this saga was almost 5 months ago, there were 6 requests for updates in the inbox, so here goes. Basically, everything is great between my wife and me. Like I said in the last update, I was still upset by the whole thing, but I was going to put it all behind me. And I did just that. I didn't become her zookeeper, I never asked to check her phone, and I never asked her to check in with me other than the obvious things that affected her or our kids' safety. I had a few rough days in the immediate aftermath of all this, but as life began to move forward and we had other issues, hot water heater going out, minor car problems, strep throat, this sort of faded into the background. I guess if I can give one piece of advice that I learned from all this, it's that if you're going to stay with a person after they've screwed up, stay with them and don't become their keeper. I still love my wife very much, and she knows that she messed up. But her love for me has never been in doubt, and I'm so glad that I never gave her a reason to stop loving me. One thing that people really keyed in on was my own lack of self-respect. Well, one thing I did do was really focus on getting myself back into physical shape after a pretty long, slow decline. 5 months later, I'm back into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a vengeance. I've lost almost 30 pounds, and I'm living a mostly keto lifestyle with a cheat day on Sundays. I feel and look better than I have in years, and a side benefit of that is that our sex life has taken off like crazy, and I'm loving it. My wife definitely learned that one of her kinks is being naughty in front of a camera, so our VB has gotten to see some things that aren't appropriate for school or church, if you catch my meaning. So all is good in our household. Thank you everyone for keeping up with our story. Things are good, and I appreciate all the advice that I got on those first 3 posts. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the thumbs up button. Thanks for watching.